I'm out of film. Taking this camera at 105 miles per hour chasing a motorcycle is probably not its intended purpose. But listen, I had to do something different. This is the Nishika N8000. It's a 35mm film camera that shoots 2 photos per frame, 2 frames at the same time. So that's 4 photos, all of the same subject, to give you a 3D image of what you're photographing. I'd been wanting this camera for a really long time, so finding it, of course, I'd jump into a deep dive, trying to find cool things that other people have made that inspire me. I find myself severely disappointed. Maybe I just found the wrong people, but I am bored with the shots I've seen from this camera. Everybody's doing the same thing. I want to find something interesting. I want to find what makes this camera shine. I'm gonna go through rolls and rolls of film, spend way too much money, and I'm gonna find something that satisfies my curiosity. Let's do it. I probably shouldn't show this on YouTube, but here. Anyway, we will get back to that, but first, let's talk about the camera. So I found this camera brand new in the box at a thrift store. I was able to talk the thrift store down from 200 to 120. I think looking back, I spent too much. You could probably say it's a good deal if you're spending anywhere from 50 to 100. They're on eBay. The new in-box ones, like the one I got, you're gonna pay more for. But imagine this. It's 1989 when this camera came out, 7 years before I was born. You take it home, you unbox it, and the manual gives you a lot of information, most of which is absolute dog shit. It's just bad advice. For instance, it tells you to almost always underexpose everything, not on purpose, just the listed numbers it gives you, like the 400 ISO, the f-stops, all the stuff it tells you to do, you're gonna end up with underexposed images. Also, it tells you to put your subject way too far from the camera. The effect is really best around 5 feet, and this thing tells you to put people like 15 to 20 feet away. Crazy. Thinking about this camera in the year of 1989, I don't know how you would functionally use it. 1989 is essentially fully pre-Photoshopped. You're not able to drop the opacity and line this stuff up perfectly. You've got film photos. I don't know what they did, but that's why I think the manual is wrong a lot of the time, is because it's giving you the point at which the photos are all naturally lined up. That 15 to 20 foot mark for the subject is where you're not gonna need Photoshop to align it as much. So not sure how it was usable then, but let's talk about how it's usable now. Like I said, this camera has 4 individual lenses taking half-frame photos all at the exact same instant. My film developer hates this fucking camera because over the last 7 rolls I've shot, she's been consistently mad over how many of these images are underexposed. Now, this is because of the limited settings on the camera. Not user error, couldn't be my fault. You're stuck with f8, f11, or f19, depending on which one of these little pictures of the sky you want to use. A locked shutter speed of only 1/60th of a second, and then an actual usable hot shoe that you can attach an external flash to. But unfortunately, there is no flash built in. It is preset for ISO 400 film, but I would say that that's the minimum. Because like I said, all of these limited settings are all darkening your image. And all these factors combined kind of make it a necessity to use that external flash on the hot shoe. My actual strategy for shooting with this camera is kind of embarrassing. I put my external flash on and I turn the power all the way up to full, and I hope I don't overexpose. It's worked out okay so far. This camera has a kind of steep but short learning curve, mostly due to its build quality. So for my first roll ever put through this camera, I thought it wasn't actually winding. I thought it was just slipping, and that's because there's a little gear inside here that frequently doesn't work on these cameras, and it tells you how many shots you've shot. Mine doesn't work, and a lot of people's don't work, and you just kind of have to count and guess. I didn't know that, so I opened up the back of my camera and I ruined most of my first test roll. Now, that happened because of this camera's biggest failure, which is its build quality. It's made of really cheap plastic, even the lenses. The lenses aren't too big of an issue. They cause a little bit of warping if you're doing landscape photos, but my biggest problem is the rewind lever. Since you're pulling 2 frames of 35mm film through every time you pull this rewind lever, and it's only the same movement as a normal rewind lever, it's geared extra heavy and it's made of extra cheap plastic. If you even think about pulling it faster than a snail's pace, you're gonna brick the camera. But once you learn how to count your shots, wind slowly, and embrace the chaos of the warpy images, then you'll start having some fun. So how people use this camera most of the time, or from what I've seen online, actually, let me get a little bit further away before I say this. Now that I'm far enough away, I can say it. It's boring. Everybody does the same thing. It's a subject 5 feet away with direct flash. Nothing in between, nothing that could ruin the shot. And I understand it's the safest way to get a decent image. And it's expensive when you're shooting 2 frames of 35mm at the same time. With development, scanning costs, it ends up being like $2 every time you click the shutter. So I get the urge to be safe with it. But then you end up taking the same picture everybody else is taking and it gets boring. God damn it. Where am I going? Fuck. So I have shot this in so many different environments already. I've shot studio, natural light, flash, action, documentary, road trip, landscape, nature, portraits, and this. I do like these shots, but if I'm gonna be honest, this is not the right tool to capture the energy and the speed that's happening in this photo. It just didn't translate well to the 3D nature of the camera. Each environment actually yielded completely different results as far as how many good or bad shots I was able to get. Here are some things I learned from each environment that helped me capture better images more consistently no matter where I was. First, think about your background. A long tunnel that extends behind the subject's head for a while, or even long palm trees like this. Anything that gives you the leading lines to accentuate the natural parallax of this 3D camera. Even using something that's reflective as a backdrop will help add more 3D-ness than a flat background. Next, you want to think about your foreground. You need something to give context for the movement. Like in this shot, I got low enough to have the tools muddy the bottom of the frame and go across as the GIF goes back and forth. Also, I had the subject ash their cigarette close to the camera so that you could see a little bit of that atmosphere and smoke in the foreground. Last but not least, the most important is your subject. I found freezing motion is definitely a more interesting photo most of the time, but it's not always appropriate like in a documentary shoot. I think what really does the most good is just having a solid focal point for the 3D to move around. I'm not gonna fully dive into a tutorial on how to make these into GIFs, but just to give you some context, you have to pick a specific spot to align every image to. This becomes your focal point and your foreground and background will move around it. With portraits, it's pretty obvious, you just choose the eye, but in any other shot, you really wanna know where your focal point is gonna be before you take the picture. Connor saved my ass by bringing a camera that actually can record video with a ND filter. I forgot my ND filters, but we're only on 1 battery, so I'm gonna read the rest on this because I don't have a lot of time. Thank you, Connor. Here's what really surprised me with this janky camera. It made me become a better photographer in general. Working with this camera's limitations has actually taught me a lot about photography in general and shooting with sufficient depth. When I'm using a regular camera now, I can see with the limitations of this 3D camera. Basically, it helps me check for sufficient depth. When I'm shooting with deep focus, I will actually look for good foreground, good subject separation, atmosphere, and an interesting background. Photography always looks better when all the planes of the image are carefully crafted. Okay, unfortunately, the battery actually did die, but I have a couple more thoughts. No! The battery on that died. Damn it! So who should buy this camera? If reliability is any type of important for you, I would skip it. If $2 a shot is making you a little nervous, I would skip it. But
if that camera's for people who are bored,
Honestly, that's a good point. If you're bored, you want to have fun, and you don't mind wasting film, then this might be a good camera to pick up and test out. Otherwise, like a lot of niche film cameras, it's expensive and it's mostly a one-trick pony. However, I like the one trick that this pony can do, and it's fun. And like I said earlier, it's taught me how to rethink photography in a good way. It's improved my photography skills. So I think that's worth the 120 bucks that I spent on. So for me, I think it's a wonderful tool, and I'm gonna add it to my toolkit and bring it to most photo shoots that I have. Will it get used every time? No, but a few times, and it'll be cool. Okay, that's the video. Bye forever.